me, 33 years old, working as volunteer coordinator for women's rights nonprofit organization. Been in this position for about 4 years now, running volunteer program. We have about 40 regular volunteers who help with events and outreach. Feel like this work is the most important thing I do with life. Our nonprofit focuses on women's issues like reproductive rights and workplace equality. We organize protests and educational events and community outreach programs regularly here. Volunteers are supposed to be passionate about the cause and committed to. I take my role very seriously because this work literally saves lives daily. When I first started, I noticed volunteers were not taking things seriously enough. Like they would show up late to events or forget to complete tasks, or they would chat and laugh during meetings instead of focusing on work. Decided I needed to establish higher standards for everyone involved in cause. Started running meetings with more structure and accountability for everyone attending here. If someone showed up late, I would call them out in front of group, ask them why they think their time is more valuable than everyone else here. Usually, they would apologize, and I would move on, but make note of. If someone forgot to complete task they were assigned, I would ask why. Make them explain in front of everyone what was more important than work. Some volunteers started looking uncomfortable, but I felt this was necessary, for cannot have people making excuses when we are fighting for women's rights here. One volunteer showed up 15 minutes late to a planning meeting we had scheduled. When she walked in, I stopped the entire meeting to address her lateness. Asked her in front of everyone why she could not be bothered to arrive. She said she got stuck in traffic and apologized for being late. Told her traffic is not an excuse. She should have left earlier to account. She said she left 30 minutes early, but there was accident on highway. Told her then she should have left 45 minutes early to be safe. She looked embarrassed and sat down quietly while others looked uncomfortable around. Another volunteer forgot to bring flyers she was supposed to print for an event. Asked her why she did not complete the simple task she was given. She said her printer ran out of ink and she forgot to get. Told her that is unacceptable. She had 3 days to print them out. She said she was really busy with work and school this week. Told her we are all busy, but this cause is more important than. She started tearing up and said she would get them printed today. Told her it is too late now. Someone else will have to do. Started noticing volunteers were getting quieter in meetings and less participatory over time. Thought maybe they were intimidated by the work, which is understandable given stakes. Decided I needed to push them harder to get them more engaged. Started calling on people directly to contribute ideas during planning sessions here. One volunteer gave suggestion for outreach event that I thought was not good. Told her that idea shows she has not been paying attention to. She looked hurt and said she thought it could work for community. Told her it would not work and she needs to think more critically. Another volunteer suggested partnering with organization I did not like politically here. Raised my voice and asked if she even understands what our organization stands. She said yes, but thought partnership could expand our reach to more people. Told her we do not partner with organizations that are not ideologically pure enough. She said they support women's rights too, even if they disagree on. Told her disagreeing on some issues means they are part of the problem. She went quiet and did not make any more suggestions for rest of. Felt good that I was maintaining ideological standards for our important work here. During one event setup, a volunteer was arranging chairs and rows for audience. Told her that is wrong. We need them in semicircle for better engagement. She said okay and started rearranging them into semicircle formation like I wanted. Walked by 10 minutes later and told her the semicircle was too wide. She said okay and made it narrower like I indicated to her earlier. Came back again and told her now it is too narrow. People will. She looked frustrated and asked me exactly how wide I wanted the semicircle. Told her she should be able to figure that out herself. Use judgment. She said she is trying, but I keep changing what I want from. Told her I am not changing anything. I have been clear the entire time. She took deep breath and asked if I could just show her exactly. Told her no. She needs to learn to problem solve on her own. Another volunteer overheard and quietly helped her arrange chairs while I walked away. Noticed volunteers were starting to help each other more and talk less to me. Thought maybe they were finally learning to work as a team together without. Felt like my tough approach was creating stronger, more independent volunteers who could. Started getting emails from volunteers asking to step back from their responsibilities here. They would say they have too much going on or need a break. Would respond asking why they are abandoning the cause when women are suffering. Tell them their personal issues are not more important than the work we. One volunteer replied saying she is not abandoning, she just needs time. Told her there is no time. Women's rights are under attack every day. She said she understands, but she is feeling burned out from everything here. Told her burnout is a privilege women being oppressed do not get to. She stopped responding to my emails after that and just stopped showing up. Several other volunteers did the same thing over the next few months total. Thought maybe they were not truly committed to the cause like I am. Started recruiting new volunteers to replace the ones who quit on us. New volunteers would be enthusiastic at first, but then become quiet and withdrawn. Same pattern as before. They would start missing meetings or asking to step. Could not understand why people kept leaving when this work is so important. Thought maybe I was not being clear enough about expectations from beginning. Started being even more direct and firm with volunteers from their first meeting. Tell them this is serious work, and I expect total commitment from everyone. If they cannot handle that, they should leave now before wasting my time. Some new volunteers would leave after first meeting, which I thought was good. Better to weed out people who are not serious before investing training in them. The volunteers who stayed seemed scared of me, but I thought that was respect. They would jump when I asked them to do something and complete tasks. Thought fear of disappointing the cause was a healthy motivator for people here. During one meeting, I was frustrated because turnout for event was lower than. Raised my voice and asked why nobody promoted it enough on social media. One volunteer said she posted about it multiple times like I asked her. Told her obviously she did not post enough or turnout would be higher. She said she posted 5 times across 3 platforms exactly as instructed before. Told her then she should have posted 10 times if 5 was not working. She said I never told her to post more than 5 times total. Told her she should have initiative to do more without being told everything. Another volunteer quietly said that maybe turnout was low because of weather storm. Turned to her and asked if she is making excuses for our failure. She said no, just pointing out that heavy rain might have kept people. Told her rain is not. Excuse people who care, show up regardless of. She went quiet and stared at the table, looking upset about my response. Told everyone at meeting that I am disappointed in all of them. Said they are not working hard enough and need to step up commitment. Several volunteers had tears in their eyes, but I thought that showed they care about the cause deeply enough to be affected by criticism. After meeting ended, I noticed volunteers gathering in parking lot, talking quietly together. Could not hear what they were saying, but they kept looking toward building. Thought maybe they were planning surprise for me or discussing next event details. Went home feeling like maybe I finally got through to them about seriousness. Few days later, I received email from volunteer asking to meet with me. Said she wanted to discuss some concerns about the volunteer program structure here. Told her sure, we can meet, but she should send concerns in email. She said she would prefer to discuss in person with some other volunteers. Asked why other volunteers need to be there for her concerns about programs. She said because the concerns are shared by many volunteers, not just her. Told her fine, we can have group meeting to discuss whatever issues they. Scheduled meeting for the following week at our usual meeting space downtown. Day of meeting arrives and I show up to find 15 volunteers waiting there. Feel surprised that many people showed up for what I thought would be? Ask what this is all about, and one volunteer says they need to. Tells me they have been talking amongst themselves about the volunteer program environment. Ask what about the environment exactly, and another volunteer pulls out a document, says they have compiled list of concerns about my leadership and management style. Feel defensive immediately and ask why they went behind my back with this. Volunteer says they tried to bring up concerns individually, but I always dismissed. Tell them I have never dismissed anyone. I have always been open to. Another volunteer says that is not true. I shut down feedback constantly here. Says anytime someone tries to say something, I turn it into lecture about. Tell them lectures are necessary when people do not understand the stakes involved. One volunteer understands just reading reluctantly and start reading through the list of complaints listed. Feel my anger rising as I read what they have written about me. Document says I create hostile environment by yelling at volunteers during meetings regularly. Says I publicly humiliate people for minor mistakes in front of entire group always. Says I use guilt and manipulation to prevent people from setting boundaries with work. Says volunteers are afraid to speak up because I retaliate against anyone who. Look up from document and tell them this is completely unfair characterization of. Volunteer says they have specific examples of everything listed in the document provided. Another volunteer says they started keeping notes of my behavior at meetings over months. Says they compared notes and found patterns of verbal abuse from me consistently. Tell them this is not abuse. This is accountability for important work. We Volunteer says accountability does not involve screaming at people for being stuck in traffic. Another says accountability does not mean telling someone their personal problems do not matter. Another says accountability does not mean making people cry at every single meeting. We tell them, I have never made anyone cry. They are being overdramatic about. Multiple volunteers say they have cried after meetings because of how I treated it. One says she had panic attacks before meetings because scared of what I would. Another says she almost quit the cause entirely because of me, not the work. Feel shocked hearing this because I thought I was inspiring them to work. Tell them I am passionate about the cause, and sometimes that comes across. Volunteer cuts me off and says passion is not an excuse for treating people. Says they have all experienced workplaces with bad bosses who claim passion as. Tell them this is not workplace. This is volunteer organization for women's rights. Volunteer says that makes it worse because we should be modeling the values. We says we cannot fight for women's dignity while you strip volunteers of theirs daily. Feel like I have been slapped hearing her say that to me directly. Ask what they want from me then, if I am so terrible too. Volunteer says they have formed volunteer union to protect themselves from my behavior. Says they have elected representatives and created list of demands for organization leadership. Feel my heart racing hearing they have organized against me behind my back. Ask what demands they have, and representative pulls out another document to read. Says first demand is that I complete anger management and leadership training immediately. Second demand is that all volunteer interactions with me are witnessed by representative present. Third demand is that volunteers can give feedback without fear of retaliation from me. Fourth demand is formal apology to everyone I have yelled at or humiliated publicly. Fifth demand is that I step back from direct volunteer management until training complete. Feel tears forming as I listen to their demands being read out loud. Ask if they really think I am that bad that these measures are. Volunteer says yes. They all agreed these measures are minimum necessary for them. Says if demands are not met, they will all resign and tell board why. Another volunteer says they already scheduled meeting with board next week to discuss. Feel panic rising that they are going to the board about me specifically. Tell them this is betrayal. I have dedicated my life to this cause. Volunteer says we are dedicated to cause too, but not to being abused. Says you do not own the cause. You are just one person working on. Tell her I am the coordinator. I have been here longer than all. Volunteer says longevity does not give you right to treat people horribly like this. Another says they talked to previous volunteers who quit, and they all said same. Says every single person who left cited you as reason they could not continue. Feel sick hearing that everyone who quit was running from me, not the work? Ask how many previous volunteers they talked to, and she says 12 of them. Says all 12 independently described same patterns of yelling, humiliation, and guilt tripping from. Says they did not coordinate their stories. They just all experienced same treatment consistently. Tell them those people were not committed enough to handle the work pressure. Volunteer says, or maybe you drove away. Committed people with your abusive behavior toward. Says we looked at volunteer retention rates, and they have dropped 70% since. Says organization is losing dedicated volunteers because of you, not keeping them because of. Feel defensive and tell them correlation is not causation. There are other factors. Volunteer says they also talk to staff members at organization about working with you. Says staff members admitted off record that they find you difficult and aggressive too. Another volunteer says even board members have received complaints about your behavior from multiple. Feel my world crashing down, hearing that everyone has problems with me. Apparently, tell them I am tough because this work requires it. We cannot be. Volunteer cuts me off and says stop making excuses and listen to us. Says we are telling you that your behavior is driving people away from cause. Says you are hurting the movement you claim to care about more than anything. Start crying and tell them I only wanted to make a difference here. Volunteer says, then make a difference by changing your behavior toward people you. Says accept the demands and get help, or we all walk away. Tell them I cannot run volunteer program without volunteers. Please do not do. Volunteer says, then accept the demands. We are not asking for much. Just says we want to be treated with basic respect and dignity while volunteering. Another says we should not have to unionize against our own coordinator for safety. Another says we should not dread coming to meetings for cause we believe in. Tell them I will think about the demands and get back to them. Volunteer says we need answer by end of week or we resign together. Says we already have resignation letters drafted and ready to submit to board. Tell them, please give me time to process this. I had no idea. Volunteer says you had plenty of opportunities to know when people tried to tell. Says you chose not to listen, so now we had to organize too. Says this is your last chance to change before you lose everyone working with. They all stand up and leave me sitting there alone in the room. Spend the next few days reading through the document they gave me over again. See specific examples of things I said and did that I do not. Like the time I told Volunteer her family emergency was not important as, or the time I made someone cry for forgetting to send one email. Talked to my therapist about what happened, and she asked me some questions like, why do I feel the need to control everything so tightly here? Why do I respond with anger when people make small mistakes at work? Why do I think yelling at people will make them more committed to? Tell her I am not yelling. I am just passionate about the cause. She says multiple people are telling you it is yelling, so maybe it. Asks me to consider that my perception of my behavior is different from. Sit with that uncomfortable thought and realize maybe I have been wrong. Think about all the volunteers who quit over the years, suddenly and completely. Thought they were not committed enough, but maybe they were running from me. Think about how scared current volunteers looked in meetings when I spoke to. Thought it was respect, but it was actually fear of my anger toward. Decide to accept the demands because I cannot lose everyone working with me. Email the volunteer representative saying I agree to all terms they outlined clearly. Says I will start therapy and step back from direct management like requested. Says I will issue formal apology at next meeting for my behavior toward. Next meeting, I stand in front of remaining volunteers and apologize to them. Tell them I did not realize how my behavior was affecting them all negatively. Say I thought I was pushing them to be better, but was hurting them. Several volunteers are crying, and one says she appreciates me finally acknowledging it. Start anger management training and leadership coaching as part of the demands agreed. Therapist helps me see how my passion became a weapon I used against people. Learn that treating people poorly does not make them work harder. It destroys them. Realize I have been driving away the very people I needed most for. Months pass and volunteer program slowly starts to recover from the damage I caused. New volunteers join because word spreads that environment is better now under new structure. Old volunteers who quit start coming back, saying they heard things have changed there. Realize the problem was never the volunteers. It was always me and my. Board meets with me and says they are glad I accepted the feedback given. Says they had been receiving complaints about me for years, but did not. Says they are relieved volunteers organized because now they had to address the issue. Feel embarrassed that board knew I was problem and did nothing until forced. Year later, and volunteer program is thriving with more people than ever before. But I am no longer in coordinator position. I step down after training complete. New coordinator treats volunteers with respect and kindness while maintaining high standards for work. Watch from sidelines and see what I could have built if I treated. Think about how I justified my abusive behavior as passion for the cause. How I thought yelling at people would make them care more about work. How I drove away dozens of committed volunteers because I could not control. My intentions were good, but impact was creating toxic environment everyone fled from. Sometimes being passionate about cause does not excuse treating people horribly in name of. Sometimes volunteers forming union against you means you are the problem, not them. Sometimes breaking down when confronted is only response left when everyone finally organizes together. And sometimes you lose everything when people you abused finally find their collective voice.